Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson. It is August 19th, 2016, and here's a look at our top stories.
Tonight, the State Department blames the media for its own lies and deception over the $400 million Iran deal.
Why all the beating around the bush if it was such a great and noble decision? So evil reporters have made you dredge this up?
Then, Hillary Clinton finally talks to the press. Well, sort of. After reading a brief statement, the media was promptly escorted out of the room, and no questions were allowed. Plus, Bill Clinton's sexual assault victims unite against NBC's propaganda puppet, Andrea Mitchell.
Bringing up a discredited and long-denied accusation against former President Bill Clinton.
All that plus the long list of Hillary lies. Up next on the Infowars Nightly News.
Let's talk about Amerigeddon, which is available at InfoWarsStore.com exclusively right now for the next week or so. You get 2 copies, and you get 2 free films with it.
Yeah, and this is an important movie because it's fact-based. We tell a story about an EMP attack, an electromagnetic pulse attack on America that shuts down the grid. And our Congress has warned that if this were to happen, 90% of the American population would die in 12 months.
People are getting the director's cut that is even bigger than what you see in theaters. And so this is the first look director's cut.
You know, Hollywood has tried to diminish the final edit on this thing, but what Alex has available here at his website this week is everything.
The most hardcore version. 2 copies for $39.90 and get my first film, America Destroyed by Design, and then one of my latest, most powerful films, Fall of the Republic, that breaks down everything currently happening free.
2 days ago, U.S. Air Force Secretary Deborah Lee James told Sputnik regarding the 50 to 70 B-61 tactical gravity nuclear bombs stored at Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, "We do have nuclear weapons, and those nuclear weapons are safe and secure, and we are confident in that." Now, Debka is reporting the United States has begun secretly evacuating the tactical nuclear weapons it had stockpiled at the southern Turkish air base of Incirlik and is transporting them to U.S. bases in Romania. Is this a reaction to the failed coup, or is there a larger strategy at play here? As this reaction finally comes after the worst foreign policy administration in U.S. history remained quiet as power was cut to the Incirlik Air Base and was put on lockdown while hordes of Turkish protesters gathered outside the base over the purported CIA link to the recent coup attempt, a link that winds its way back to Fethullah Gulen and his movement, the same Gulen who is protected by the Obama administration and maintains a charter school empire in the United States that has angered labor unions while siphoning money from the American taxpayers through those charter schools to fund his movement. The results of the failed coup in Ankara, Turkey, that claimed 294 lives and saw thousands arrested has awarded President Erdogan unlimited dictatorial control over his country. The New York Times reported Turkey said on Wednesday that it would empty its prisons of tens of thousands of criminals to make room for the wave of journalists, teachers, lawyers, and judges rounded up in connection with last month's failed coup. Numerous sources are now confirming that the Incirlik nukes are being moved to the Deveselu Air Base in Romania. Meanwhile, 2,000 NATO troops have conducted airborne training operations in Poland, while Obama pledged 1,000 extra troops to Poland. Russian President Vladimir Putin is urging Erdogan to pick a side as the proxy situation in Ukraine, funded by the United States.
We've invested over $5 billion to assist Ukraine in these and other goals that will ensure a secure and prosperous and democratic Ukraine.
Is it possible that the majority of the civilian casualties that you're talking about were actually civilian casualties that were the victims of the Ukrainian army and the oligarch that financed 1/3 of their army at one point? Is that possible?
If I could say two things. First, I think it's highly unlikely on the basis of the reports that we've received from the United Nations and from the OSCE. Second, I want to underscore again why this conflict started. It started because Russia moved troops and weapons and so forth into Eastern Ukraine. Just so you know, Madam Secretary, the Russians would suggest it started when there was a violent overthrow of an elected government. Right. I don't make it a point of listening to President Putin's claims as a general rule. I don't find them credible. Well, I think that if you are our representatives, you should pay attention to everybody's claims, and you should refute them if they can be refuted rather than dismissing them.
And quarterbacked by George Soros, an escalation now forcing Putin's hand as 40,000 Russian troops are now sitting on the Ukraine's eastern border. Our media and government should be working to de-escalate this nuclear powder keg with rational reporting and diplomacy. However, Obama golfs, Hillary thumbs her nose at Putin, and George Soros sways public opinion to lead the world to the razor's edge of World War III, just in time to hijack the U.S. presidential election. John Bound for Infowars.com.
That was a fantastic report there from John Bound. Now let's talk about something that's been labeled a conspiracy theory here lately. You guys recall that over the past couple of weeks, the $400 million bounty to Iran had been speculated on, and people in the media saying, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory by the right-wingers. They're making this up. They're trying to demonize Obama. And now the State Department blames the media for its own lies and deception over the $400 million Iran deal. In a remarkable exchange with the press corps, a State Department spokesman was berated and questioned for half an hour over blatantly obvious lies and deception concerning the Obama administration's $400 million payment to Iran.
Getting away from the word leverage, which in basic English, you're saying that you wouldn't give them the $400 million in cash until the prisoners were released, correct?
That's correct.
And I love how easy it is to convince so many people of what constitutes a, quote, conspiracy theory. Basically, when I talk to people and I ask them, what is a conspiracy theory, it's just something that hasn't been confirmed by their trusted source. Let's say, for example, if your trusted source is CNN. If CNN isn't reporting on something, but Infowars is, it's a conspiracy theory until CNN gets around to reporting the exact same information that we may have said years in advance. A similar thing when you deal with government types. When myself, Joe Biggs, David Knight, or whoever else, we go out to these press conferences and we talk to these police chiefs or these lieutenant colonels or whoever they may be, and we ask them a question that may be in conflict with their press release. They say, just read out the press release. And we say, no, sir, your press release is in direct contradiction with what your actions are saying. Your motivations aren't in line with your actions. And if you do this in a public setting in 2016, they call you a conspiracy theorist. Had that, those same press conferences happened back in the 1960s or 70s, we'd be given awards for award-winning investigative journalists. That's just how the mentality is, and it's the great propaganda machine where you just keep people so docile, so afraid to be labeled something that they won't even ask you a question, and you eventually have to get the people to admit it themselves, which they usually do in some type of fashion. It may have been years later or whatever, but they eventually do come around to admitting it, and then it's a fact, even though somebody could break the story, potentially years in advance. Now, as we're talking about the press, let's talk about media not talking to Hillary Clinton, or Hillary Clinton not talking to the media more accurately, because we know Mrs. Clinton has gone well over 200 days without directly having a press conference. Now, she may have, little puff pieces where you can come up here and ask her a simple question, or you can take a picture of her, hugging kids and kissing babies and all that kind of stuff. But recently, she had an event where she invited the media to come and film her talking to police officers, but not the police officers responding to her.
Yeah, well, but they can sit down. Yeah, bring your chair. Can we get, Jake, can we get more chairs so that, everybody who's here feels like they can be part of it? So with that, I'm going to let the press have a chance to depart, and then we can begin our conversation. So you 2 days off, huh?
2 days. And that's the beauty of it. So she can sit up there, she can give her speech, she can say whatever she wants to say, but let's say if, for one example, somebody in that press conference with her on that panel had a opinion that differed with hers. Well, we're not really going to find out about that now. Just like when she had all these big meetings and press conferences or these speeches to Goldman Sachs and these other big banks, and people saying, well, why don't you release the transcript? Well, yeah, we don't need to talk about what I said to all these big banksters who's giving me money all the time. And as we're still on this Clinton train, let's talk about her use of the personal email server. Now, as I always say about Mrs. Clinton, in the grand scheme of things, I think Benghazi is a much larger issue than the email scandal, but we have seen the head of the FBI come out and say that Mrs. Clinton did put national security at risk when she used these private email servers. And I love this mentality that people have. Well, she did it, so it's okay if somebody else did it, or somebody else did it before her, so it's okay that she did it. I'm not saying it's good when Colin Powell did it. I'm not saying it's good when Mrs. Clinton did it. I think they're all accountable in their own way, and everybody should be held accountable for their actions. But now we have reports saying that Clinton told the FBI that Colin Powell advised her to use a personal email server. And this is the Democratic presidential nominee, Hillary Clinton, told federal investigators that Colin Powell, a former Secretary of State, advised her to use a personal email account, according to the New York Times. And they did say that Colin Powell said, except in cases of classified communications. Now, as I was saying, it's not good when Powell does it. It's not good when Hillary does it, but that's what everybody uses the excuse for. I'm gonna make up this excuse for Hillary because people have done it before her. She's supposed to be different. Same thing with Obama. He's supposed to bring the hope and the change. He's supposed to end these foreign conflicts, still have foreign conflicts. He's supposed to shut down Guantanamo Bay, still have Guantanamo Bay. He's supposed to stop arming all these terrorists and these criminals, still arming the terrorists and the criminals, and then sending our guys out there to go and fight. Do you understand what I'm making? The point I'm making here? If your guy is supposed to be different, they're not supposed to do the same things that the other guys have been doing for years and years and years. And speaking of things that have been going on for years and years and years, the allegations of one Bill Clinton. Now, recently, myself, Joe Biggs, and Rob Dew, we had a chance to go up to Milwaukee following the civil unrest up there with flat-out riots. Let's call it what it is, following the shooting of a man up there. And a lot of people have differing opinions. I've yet to see the official police video, so I'm not going to speak so much on that aspect of it. But basically, the thing had settled down by the time we got there Monday night. So with that a little bit cooler heads prevailing out there, and very good to you guys, Milwaukee, for squashing that down and not letting it become a larger issue as far as the violence is concerned. Trump was also speaking in the Milwaukee area about 30 minutes outside the city. So with things cool in Milwaukee, we went up there to the Trump rally. Now, while I was out there, there was a small group of anti-Trump demonstrators, and I guess Trump has figured this thing out. He doesn't want a bunch of violence and flag burning and people throwing barricades at police and the horses out there. So he's getting a little bit smarter and not having his rallies in the inner city where people could take a bus so they could walk down there and cause a bunch of ruckus. When we went out to Milwaukee, his facility was kind of out there in the sticks. I think the only thing in the immediate area was a hospital. Didn't look like there's any public transportation where people could just get off a bus, run up there and protest. With that said, there was a smaller group of Trump demonstrators. A lot of them were just, soccer mom types. And I felt this was an opportunity to go engage them in conversation. And you guys know how I feel about Trump, but I can actually articulate to you why I feel that way about Trump, or Clinton for that matter. And I was curious as to why these people were anti-Trump. And when I engaged them in conversation, they would say something to me to the effect of, I don't like Trump because he's a sexist, or he said negative things about Megyn Kelly or Rosie O'Donnell. And yeah, he did those things. I'm not justifying him. He has a freedom of speech, but so I'm not encouraging anybody to go out there and do that. With that said, I said, okay, so he said this about this person, about that person, but you have Mrs. Clinton, who has called Bill's rape accusers Bill's bimbos, and you guys don't really seem to be too concerned about that. Oh, well, nobody's perfect. That's the justification I gave you. That's just like I was talking about Clinton and Colin Powell. It's not okay when Colin Powell did it. It's not okay when Clinton does it. So if you want to call Trump a sexist because he said something about Megyn Kelly, but then give her a free pass when she calls these accusers Bill's bimbos, there's something wrong with that logic, in my personal opinion. Let's take a look at this article. Clinton's sexual assault accusers Paula Jones, Kathleen Wiley unite against NBC's Andrea Mitchell. Wiley and Jones are demanding that NBC News anchor Andrea Mitchell issue a public apology for baselessly claiming that Broderick, another Bill Clinton rape accuser, was discredited during a segment on the Today Show. And this is following a letter from Broderick's attorney. Now, NBC has deleted references to it in its internet version of the report, but they have not fulfilled Broderick's request for an apology. And this is what they do. They'll just go out there, they say anything they want to say, and then they just hope that nobody on the back end catches up with it. And this is what I tell people. I say this, in some of the newer guys that come into the office. A lot of times people remember the first thing that they hear from the source that they believe, whether that's true or not. And people can make honest mistakes. I definitely don't bash people for that. But when you come out and say that something as heinous as a rape allegation, you're discredited and you need some actual proof to come out and say something like that. And this is what I'm saying, like when they build this wall of protection around Hillary, you can say Trump's misogynistic, Trump's a sexist, he's a this and that, he doesn't pay his people, his wife is naked on the cover of magazines, and all that's well and good. But if you bring up how old Billy Boy has been accused of, for decades of raping women, you're just anti-Hillary. You're just not ready to see a woman in the White House. Now, somebody who you won't be seeing in the White House, this is Paul Manafort. He has resigned from Trump's campaign. And Donald Trump's outspoken campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, resigned on Friday, and this is amid growing speculation about his ties to Ukrainian politics. He came under fire in a New York Times article saying that from 2007 to 2012, he had received over $12 million in undisclosed cash payments from a pro-Russian party. Let's talk about celebrity news, but not in the way that you're thinking about. Mike Rowe, the guy from Dirty Jobs, he's coming out and he's speaking about celebrities and their involvement in the political system. And of course, everybody has the right to choose their candidate of their choice. But somebody asked him, Mr. Rowe, will you encourage your followers, your viewers to go out and vote? He says, no, I'm not going to tell people to vote just because they have the right to vote, just like I wouldn't tell somebody to go out and buy a gun just because they have the right to buy a gun. And he made a very interesting point. He was talking about all the celebrities who tell their fans to go out and vote, but they're really telling their fans to go out and vote for their candidate. He's saying all these big celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio and Ellen and the rest of these guys, they want you to go out and vote for somebody like Mrs. Clinton. They don't want you to go out and vote for Trump. Just like when you see these ads from these Democrats, I remember the one, it was like the Turn Down for What, that had Little John and Lena Dunham and a lot of those celebrities in it. And it's like, yeah, just go out and vote. And then the whole thing was about gun control and legalizing marijuana and a bunch of other things. And I'm not saying all those things are bad, but the point is, like, go out and vote, but we're going to tell you how to vote. It's not like vote for yourself or vote who you want. Vote, but vote how we would tell you to vote. And that's how celebrities manipulate the public. And just one big thing about propaganda. And finally, we'll go with this NSA article before we come back with more special reports. NSA leak is real, Snowden documents confirmed. And this is on Monday, a hacking group calling itself the Shadow Brokers announced an auction for what it called cyber weapons made by the NSA. And they said Snowden has been able to come out and authenticate this information, saying yet this was an actual tool used by the NSA. And there's been a lot of talk about who's going to be in Trump's cabinet. I personally would like to see Trump add as the head of the NSA John McAfee, so John McAfee can shut down the NSA. And he said, hey, I'll just give you a free copy of McAfee antivirus software and you can figure out the rest for yourself. That's it for this segment. Stay tuned after this break for more special reports.
And it's time for humanity to stand up in the info war and say, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this, but you want to fight, you better believe you got one. Brain Force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're gonna crash, you're gonna feel really bad afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. For example, the L-theanine inside of it, that is activated by the different compounds in the yerba mate that we put inside of it as well. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a car will run on one form of junkie gas, but it runs really good on what it's designed for. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253 888-848-3139. We have ended the big mega sale, the biggest in our history. Now, we have kept 3 items, though, this week. That's Brain Force, while supplies last, the amazing nootropic, for $17.76, normally $29. Leading competitors that have similar formulas are $60 to $70 to $80. So we're already a great deal at that price. It has some ingredients that are controlled or prescription in Europe. That's how powerful it is. Read about it for yourself at InfoWarsLife.com. That's 40% off. DNA Force, our flagship product. It's a big deal to offer 30% off on that. We're extending that. And then Vitamin Mineral Fusion. All the vitamins, all the minerals, the amino acids, the cofactors to help upload it. Great tasting fruit punch. Organically flavored. There's nothing else out there it's like it. It's amazing. It's plant-derived minerals. InfoWarsLife.com. That's 30% off. But I'm going to go further. Boom, here it is. Normally you sign up for auto ship, you get 10% off. You still get that on top of it. I'm doing free shipping on everything. Whether it's one Hillary for prison shirt or a Bill Clinton rape shirt or whatever it is, whatever informational warfare weapon you want to help spread the word and meet like-minded people, free shipping store-wide. Free shipping store-wide. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you can get 40% off on Brain Force. You can get 30% off on DNA Force. I'm not going to sit here and belabor this. People should really go read and see the hundreds of studies that are there breaking down just what BioPQQ does and why this is such an amazing nutraceutical and why it's so important that folks take it daily, because the compounds in this are just amazing. I mean, you just know they're from God. But I'm not going to get into the science. Go to InfoWarsLife.com. Go there to the page for yourself, and you can check it all out at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWarsStore.com is the umbrella site, and your purchases make it possible, everything we do here. So I want to thank you all for your support, your prayers, and so much more.
We're not even able to post probably half of the reviews that come in. And the reason why is because if anyone mentions a disease or they got better from a disease, the third-party review sites that we subcontract out to that monitor these reviews, if there's any mention of a disease or anything in there, it can't go up online because of the regulations with the FDA. So please feel free to call in as much as you want. We love hearing about your stories. And this is just DNA Force, but you know, the best thing that I love to do and the best thing I tell people to do is just go online, InfoWarsLife.com, and just read all the reviews.
I cannot help asking those who have caused this situation, do you realize now what you've done?
We even know year by year what's going to happen, and they know we know. It's only you that they tell these fables and you buy it and spread it to the citizens of your countries. And your people do not feel a sense of the impending danger. This is what worries me. How do you not understand that the world is being pulled in an irreversible direction? That is the problem. But they pretend like nothing's going on. I don't even know how to get through to you people anymore.
Putin will try to destabilize Ukraine, but the Ukrainians, the large majority of Ukrainians, are determined to be independent of Russia.
Well then, why are you interfering in our business? Don't meddle in our business. Sort out your own issues first. Mr. Trump declared that he is ready to restore full cooperative relations with Russia. What's so bad about that? We all welcome that. Do you not?
In recent years, we have seen a cacophony of geopolitical experts, historians, statisticians, statesmen come out and warn that the world is hurtling towards major military conflict between the United States and Russia, and that the climate that we see in the world today is very similar to what we saw before World War I and World War II. Vladimir Putin has come out multiple times in the last 6 months at press conferences and warned the world that the West, under the guise of missile defense systems, is moving offensive nuclear weapons up to the border with Russia. I study the facts. I know that 2 years ago, George Soros bragged on CNN that he had the major part with the State Department in overthrowing the elected government of Ukraine.
First, on Ukraine, one of the things that many people recognized about you was that you, during the revolutions of 1989, funded a lot of dissident activity, civil society groups in Eastern Europe, in Poland, the Czech Republic. Are you doing similar things in Ukraine?
Well, I set up a foundation in Ukraine before Ukraine became independent of Russia. And the foundation has been functioning ever since. And it played an important part in events now.
Now, in the eastern area of Ukraine that has always been part of Russia, the Crimea, it means the border in Russian, we have proxy armies of NATO battling Russian troops, and the Russian losses have been high. Just last week, Vladimir Putin came out in a press conference and pointed out that Kiev is launching basically asymmetrical attacks, or what he called terrorism. And whether you support Russia or Putin or don't, or whether you're just neutral, it should be a major news item here in the United States. Here's a segment of that news conference.
It is true that our special forces have foiled an attempt by a group of sabotage infiltrators belonging to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry's intelligence agency, who were seeking to penetrate the Crimean territory. And in view of these events, it has become pointless to meet with the Ukraine's current authorities at the Normandy format. We have suffered losses as a result of this operation. We undoubtedly cannot turn a blind eye to the deaths of our servicemen. But I would also like to address our American and European partners. I think today it has become obvious for everyone that Kiev's current authorities are not seeking ways to solve problems through negotiations, but have turned to terrorism instead. This is a highly troubling development. There are no other reasons for conducting such actions other than to distract the Ukrainian people and divert their attention from the disastrous economic situation and the miserable conditions most of them are living in.
And here we are, 2 years after George Soros and the State Department brag that they overthrew the elected government of Ukraine. And now as NATO and Western forces mass on the Russian border, and as Russia puts 40,000 troops on its border and goes on high alert, and as Putin says, no more détente, no more talk with Ukraine, you are attacking Russian citizens in your east. Zero coverage here in our media, unless there's stories saying that I'm a Russian agent or that Infowars or Donald Trump have sold out to Putin. No, we've sold out to common sense and decency and not having a nuclear war. And I see the emails that come in the comments on Infowars by a vocal minority saying that I'm a fearmonger because I'm concerned about global conflict. Yes, I'm concerned about the West funding Al-Qaeda and ISIS to take over the Middle East and North Africa. I'm upset about our governments creating thousands of trillions of dollars of fake derivatives to buy up the world. I'm concerned about the Clinton Foundation taking money from third world dictators and Middle Eastern governments that oppress women and homosexuals. I'm concerned about the laissez-faire attitude of our elites. But I'm even more concerned about the general population, because I've had people that I know personally say to me, Alex, we've been hearing about nuclear war since the 1960s. It's fear-mongering. It's never going to happen. And the New York Times makes jokes about fear porn. We have the power to destroy life on this planet many times over. We have Promethean fire that will either take us to the stars or turn this whole planet into a giant tombstone. I have 3 children. I study geopolitics. I'm involved in trying to build a better world. I want peace with Russia and China. I don't want war. And I see our very elites that tell us don't worry about war being the ones that gave nuclear reactors to North Korea so they could create atomic bombs, and who gave the missile secrets for ICBMs to China in the 1990s. The very people telling us don't worry about all this are the very ones that are pushing our world towards the brink of extinction, and not just for humanity. We've seen The Hague recently rule against the Chinese in the South China Sea. And we've seen China go into a very belligerent tone, threatening war with the world. Whether you support the communist Chinese or don't, I'm sitting here as an American patriot pointing out that we have aircraft carriers and fleets openly lined up against Chinese ships in the South China Sea in the last 2 months, with the People's Daily and the president of China saying war with the United States is imminent. And there's 1,000 times more news, literally, about some American athlete in South America at the Olympics who might have lied about being robbed. That's the big story, and not this. WorldNet Daily is reporting that $6+ trillion is missing from the Pentagon. The last time CBS News reported the day before 9/11 that $2 trillion was missing, you saw what happened. And that's just the beginning of what I'm talking about. The elite is all basically running to armored fortresses and redoubts in New Zealand. They're going underground. It's admitted. They're building huge walls from Hillary's palace to Zuckerberg's around their houses. They're acting like it's the end of the world while telling us don't worry about it. It's a conspiracy theory if you even talk about Putin discussing nuclear war. These are crazy times to be alive. And I'm simply here ringing the alarm bell saying, we've gotten by without a nuclear war so far, and we're very close to one right now. Let's have a debate about this instead of whether or not somebody on the Olympic team lied about being assaulted. Let's force real issues out there in the open. I'm Alex Jones, asking all of you to think about the facts, to weigh the evidence, and to decide, is having 50,000 nuclear weapons on this planet safe? Is massing troops on the Russian border a good idea? Is funding ISIS and Al-Qaeda a good idea? The decision is up to all of us, and we should have a serious debate about it. The globalists don't want that debate to happen, but we're here to force that debate front and center, just like we've done about election fraud, just like we've done about GMO, just like we've done about our government funding ISIS. On every front, Infowars is the tip of the spear, because we have 28 million viewers and listeners, just like you, that are awake and who are involved. So, my friends, it's time to take action and to stop a new world war. Let's talk about Amerigeddon, which is available at InfoWarsStore.com exclusively right now for the next week or so. You get 2 copies, and you get 2 free films with it.
Yeah, and this is an important movie because it's fact-based. We tell a story about an EMP attack, an electromagnetic pulse attack on America that shuts down the grid. And our Congress has warned that if this were to happen, 90% of the American population would die in 12 months. To quote Henry Kissinger, the only thing standing in the way of a new world order is a strong America. One of the ways that they can diminish America quickly and severely is to allow for an EMP attack on this country. And in light of the events and things that are happening, I'm afraid this is a very likely scenario. So I made a movie about it. It's an entertaining movie, but it's fact-based.
People are getting the director's cut that is even bigger than what you see in theaters. And so this is the first look director's cut.
You know, Hollywood has tried to diminish the final edit on this thing, but what Alex has available here at his website this week is everything.
The most hardcore version.
Yep. So this is a great place to acquire the movie and then to show it to your friends and family and even your churches.
That's right. You can get 1 copy of the film Amerigeddon on DVD at InfoWarsStore.com exclusively right now, or get a second copy, 2 copies for $39.90, and get my first film, America Destroyed by Design, and then one of my latest, most powerful films, Fall of the Republic, that breaks down everything currently happening, free. 2 films free when you purchase 2 Amerigeddons, and I'm doing that because I want to get this film out. Another big thing people can do, if you really want to reach a lot of people, Get 2 copies, keep one for your own archive to share, take the other and donate it to the library. So many people are smart because they've closed all the video stores. I was reading an article about this in the Wall Street Journal about a year ago, that what's the most popular now at libraries is not the books anymore, but is people going and actually checking out the DVDs, the Blu-rays, all that. And so that's why you make a donation of this to your library. You're going to talk about hundreds of people that are going to check that out and watch it. That is amazing. All of that, I can't tell you how many listeners we run into on the street that found this show, not on a local AM or FM station, but over the internet over the years, because somebody gave them a DVD or somebody gave them a card with forbidden information, Infowars.com, or they saw a bumper sticker, and it's just exponential. It's exponential. I can't imagine where Infowars will be in a year, 2 years, 3 years. And I just pray to God that I can be humble and focused and make the right decisions with this great responsibility. But it's not just Alex Jones. It's what Gary Haven's doing. It's what Matt Drudge is doing. It's what WorldNet Daily's doing. It's what people like Donald Trump are doing. We all are just choosing to not be with the New World Order. Introducing Secret 12, the new Infowars Life vitamin B12 formulation. Most forms of vitamin B12 are highly processed and synthetic and could not be properly absorbed by the body. That's why for real results, so many are having to turn to painful B12 injections, which are known to have higher absorption rates. Now, InfowarsLife.com is excited to announce that we can bring you our most bioactive, powerful form of B12 that has been developed with our exclusive perfected process. Secret 12 is a binary of nutramedical-grade, bioavailable coenzyme forms of B12, methylcobalamin, the same kind used in B12 injections, and adenosylcobalamin. Secret 12 is simply taken by mouth, right on the tongue, and then swallowed. No needles, no injections. Don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. Discover the secret. Secret 12. Secure your revolutionary Secret 12 formula right now at InfowarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
Well, this just in, the Clinton Foundation has announced this week they're going to stop taking donations from foreign governments and from corporations in the event that Hillary Clinton gets elected. Also, the Clinton Global Initiative is going to shut down entirely in November, regardless of the election's outcome. In any event, they say they're going to wind down one last gathering in September, the former president told his staff. Now, an article coming out rather under the wire, and I want to point out that this is prompted by Trump's tweets regarding the Clinton Foundation, how corrupt that she is, crooked Hillary, and her donation policy if it's elected. Now, Clinton's Family Foundation, they said that they're no longer going to accept foreign and corporate donations. And that's a big deal because the bulk of their money comes from places like Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, places with an atrocious human rights record when it comes to women and gays. And upwards, I was looking into this today, upwards of $25 million the Saudis gave to Hillary Clinton, their foundation. She's saying, by the way, that her hands are clean. It was just given to her foundation, not to her specifically, all while she was acting as Secretary of State from these autocratic Persian Gulf states and their leaders, potentially undermining her candidacy and her claims that she could carry out independent Middle East policies as Secretary of State, even though she was taking money on the side from them. That remains to be seen how she's going to justify that. Anybody else doing this, by the way, would be in jail right now, but because it's Hillary Clinton, we have to give her a free pass. Now, these Persian Gulf sheikhs, one article suggests that they gave Bill and Hillary upwards of $100 million. There's a video attached. This Daily Caller article, it came out in May, and we're tying it with this now because of this announcement that they released on Thursday, that they're going to stop taking money from these states. And these donations, they coincide with her employment as Secretary of State. We know that she used it as her personal hedge fund. These regimes, no question, were buying access. That's what's on the table. You've got the Kuwaitis, Oman, Qatar, the UAE, massive conflicts of interest nobody seems to be pointing out. Now, Clinton greeted the announcement of the end of her Global Initiative Fund as no admission of wrongdoing. She's saying that her hands are clean in the event. Remember, they released their tax returns not too long ago. And to justify that amount of money coming from foreign states, well, my hat's off to her. Let me put it that way, that the woman is not in jail right now. Now, the foundation has been the source of headaches for the couple for years. But the fact that Bill Clinton is saying that they're going to go ahead and wind this down now because of all the speculation that's been pointed to the foundation and its donors, it's truly an act of suspicion. And here at Infowars, we like pointing out suspicious activity, if you haven't noticed. And the fact that this foundation, we've covered her ad nauseum here, the fact that it says it's winding down, that is a blaring red flag. Now, going to the AP article for just a moment that highlighted this rather innocuously. Now, Hillary Clinton maintains that she stepped down from the initiative's board after launching her 2016 campaign. Her husband, Bill, and of course her daughter, Chelsea, remained in leadership roles on the initiative, prompting questions about the ability of the organization to continue its work should she become president of the United States. Now, this article, it's written highly favorably towards Clinton. And it's very bothersome to me because looking at the specifics of this case, this woman has been taking money from foreign corrupt governments for years, governments that have a track record of violently abusing women, gays, throwing them off buildings, in fact. And yet this woman maintains because she's female, she belongs in the White House. This is some sort of historic moment, as though, Jill Stein and other women don't exist who've actually run for the presidency. Regardless of that, Clinton is saying nothing to see here, even though her relationship with these dictatorships continues. My question is, what kind of favors did she swap while a Secretary of State maintaining this policy, this innocuous policy of having, a fair and balanced take on engagements with countries like the UAE, with the Saudis, with Kuwait, with Qatar, with Bahrain, all of which have donated to her? What kind of relationship could she have maintained while taking their money? I'm Margaret Howell reporting for Infowars.com.
It just couldn't be any more arrogantly brazen. Hillary Clinton has been cleared by the FBI for the heinous breach of the United States national security.
Our investigation looked at whether there is evidence that classified information was improperly stored or transmitted on that personal system in violation of a federal statute that makes it a felony to mishandle classified information, either intentionally or in a grossly negligent way, or a second statute making it a misdemeanor to knowingly remove classified information from appropriate systems or storage facilities. And consistent with our counterintelligence responsibilities, we have also investigated to determine if there is evidence of computer intrusion by nation states or by hostile actors of any kind. Now, I have so far used the singular term email server in describing the referral that began our investigation. It turns out to have been more complicated than that. Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department. Email was assessed as possibly containing classified information. The FBI referred that email to any government agency that might be an owner of that information, so that agency could make a determination as to whether the email contained classified information at the time it was sent or received, or whether there was reason to classify it now, even if the content had not been classified when it was first sent or received. And that's the process sometimes referred to as up-classifying. From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level of classification. Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were up-classified to make them confidential. Those emails had not been classified at the time that they were sent or received. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive information.
Hillary Clinton used her Secretary of State position to set up a Dropbox for her $1 million clandestine espionage Clinton Foundation operation. That alone should have taken down Hillary. However, she and her husband have been dodging persecution long before her rise under Obama's reign.
He should have been impeached and convicted, and then I think subsequently charged with treason for these two transactions. In essence, he ignored U.S. law to trade high-level technology to the Russians, but even more egregious, he essentially took $300,000 in illegal Chinese campaign contributions, passed through Johnny Chung in return for a three-party transaction in which he sold the actual technology that targets our missiles, the accuracy of our missiles, to the Chinese government. By any other name, this is treason.
The elite are writing their own Declaration of Independence in the legacy of their puppets of globalism. And the shot has been heard around the world. Paul Joseph Watson writes, many Americans reacted furiously to the FBI's announcement that Hillary Clinton should not face criminal charges over her email scandal, with some asserting that since the former Secretary of State appears to be above the law, they would also now refuse to follow the law. One respondent asked, why should we follow the law when our leaders don't? This Clinton BS has sealed the deal for me. We are ruled by a corrupt cabal that is above the law. Attorney General Loretta Lynch has already said she would abide by the FBI's recommendation. Of course she will. She orchestrated it illegally right out in the open. Make no mistake about it. If Hillary is elected president, she will bring with her decades of protected criminal activity, a state of mind that she will unleash on the founding principles of the United States of America. This is how America dies. John Bound for Infowars.com.
Introducing Secret 12, the new Infowars Life vitamin B12 formulation. Now, InfowarsLife.com is excited to announce that we can bring you our most bioactive, powerful form of B12 that has been developed with our exclusive perfected process. Secret 12 is a binary of nutramedical grade, bioavailable coenzyme forms of B12. Secure your revolutionary Secret 12 formula right now at InfowarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfowarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Thousands of years ago, there was a basic form of chivalry. Our ancestors would hear the drums of war, giving the warriors of the tribe a chance to organize and prepare a defense. 60 years ago, when foreign air forces were approaching filled with bombs, they had drums of their own, air raid sirens. But in the 21st century, there are silent weapons for quiet war. Pathogens added to the food and water, and to the lining of plastics that destroy our vitality, turn off our hormones, and accelerate our journey towards death. I personally counter this onslaught with Anthroplex. Anthroplex is designed with known organic concentrated herbs to create the basic foundation to normal metabolic activity inside the human body. Discover why Anthroplex is turning so many heads today. It's time for us to take our bodies back into our own hands, and it starts at InfowarsLife.com with Anthroplex.
This is Ben Garrison. He is a political activist, cartoonist. He's a commercial artist, fine artist, and a libertarian cartoonist. Now, he says he was very angry after the 2008 banker bailout, so he decided to draw protest cartoons in his spare time. He began by drawing anti-Federal Reserve and pro-Ron Paul cartoons. You've seen his work. He has very iconic anti-New World Order artwork. But now it seems like, Mr. Garrison, you're dead set on taking out Hillary Clinton. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, normally I'd be drawing a lot more anti-Federal Reserve cartoons, anti-big government, anti-forced vaccination, and things such as that. But right now, it's imperative that we keep this creature from returning to the White House, because if she gets it back in there now, I mean, who knows what kind of junk she'll pull on the American people. I mean, she could end up doing some stuff that would make Hitler and Stalin blush.
Right. And, you know, there's kind of a tenet in journalism when you're chasing a story, if everybody zigs, you zag. And so it appears like that's exactly what you're doing with your artwork, because a lot of people would probably go after what they perceive as the low-hanging fruit, which would be Donald Trump. And we're seeing a lot of this artwork making fun of him. Oh, he's naked. Statues are being put up in New York and things like that. But you're going after the topics that the media doesn't want to talk about. Hillary's health, how the election was rigged. Let's first just get into one of your latest cartoons, Weekend at Hillary, where you're basically showing how she is having to be propped up and dragged into this election.
Well, this cartoon is factual. It's not that much of an exaggeration. I mean, we've already seen it with our own eyes. And some people, or some doctors out there, are even starting to say that she has the early onset of dementia. Well, we've known for a long time that she's already had severe dementia when it comes to ethics. She's got ethics dementia. So I drew this cartoon to illustrate that. That's more of an illustration rather than just fact to me. I mean, just look at her. She could hardly go up the stairs, and she's got
to be propped up on pillows. She's got her stool.
Right. So now she's taken the weekend off. She's taken the weekend off, and Obama's golfing while Trump is going down to Louisiana to help out the flood victims. What does that tell you?
Exactly. And in fact, they've even said that they don't really want President Obama coming to visit them in Louisiana just yet, because he takes so much preparation. He would take all of the police that are there trying to help the families in need. They would have to go protect him. So they're like, don't even come. We don't need you right now. And I love how with this cartoon, the points that you're making is that Hillary, without the DNC, without the mainstream media, without all of her handlers, her presidential run would have expired.
It should have expired. She's unfit in so many ways, in multidimensional ways. She's not fit physically. She's not fit. When you look at her track record, it's been a series of disasters. And she's not fit ethically. She has a long, long history of bamboozling and tricking the American public.
Yeah, you're never going to run out.
Is what she is. She's a criminal, and she everything she does is she leaves a trail of scandal and ethics violations, and it's just
you're never going to run out of material when it comes to Hillary Clinton. Now, Ben, I wanted to kind of get your take as a libertarian cartoonist who now says you're actively working to make sure Hillary does not get her monstrous hands on the White House. What do you think about the never-Trumpers who would rather have someone like Hillary Clinton, who is completely opposite of their supposed conservative ideals? They'd rather have her give her 4 more years to wreck this country than get Trump in.
This is something that I've been trying to discuss with my few remaining liberal friends. I've had 3 separate liberal friends write me and say, I don't like Hillary, and you're right. We know she's a liar. She's a good liar. But I have to vote for her because Trump is a loose cannon. They all said the exact same thing. Trump is a loose cannon. And so my retort was, well, don't we need a loose cannon when the corruption is becoming so obvious? It's like on display and in your face. It's time for a loose cannon to get up there and try to blow out all the garbage that's been deposited in the White House and on Capitol Hill for so many years. And so that's what I tell them, but they still insist that she's got experience. I said, well, she's an experienced criminal. And look at the disastrous record she had as Secretary of State. Look at even as a senator, she managed to get into trouble and was censored by the Senate. So to me, the obvious choice is Trump. Now, is Trump a perfect candidate? Of course he's not. Ron Paul was a perfect candidate. But Trump, actually, I believe he sincerely cares about America, and he really does want to make it great again. Whereas Hillary will get in there and continue the cronyism and pocket filling of her corrupt buddies. That's what she's going to do. I mean, do you think the leopard's going to change her spots when she gets into the White House? No, she's going to be even more emboldened. And that's why we got to keep her out of there. No, and that's why I'm going to continue to draw the cartoons to try to sway a few minds. Now, when I drew that Brexit cartoon, to my surprise, I had an avalanche of people writing me, mostly from England, and they said that cartoon influenced them, and it's like I broke a logjam. They're actually able to start talking about how they objected to the EU abuses as well as forced immigration by Muslims. And so my cartoon sort of triggered that conversation. Whereas before, they were afraid that they'd be called racist. They're afraid that they'd be say, well, I'm a hater. But when I drew that cartoon, it showed up everywhere in Europe. And I'm still selling a lot of prints today. It's like, that's what a cartoon should do. That's what a successful cartoon should do. It should sway minds and at least, the very least, generate debate. And so I consider that cartoon is my most successful cartoon of the year.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, just like I was saying earlier, these are the things that people need to be sharing on Facebook, on Twitter, are these political cartoons and these memes. They're so powerful. It's so easy to just hit send or, a retweet or something like that to really get this message out there, to let people know that it's okay to ask, what the heck is wrong with Hillary? Why does she seem so unhealthy? Why does she have to take days off from her speeches? Why does she need stools to prop her up because she can't even stand? She's trying to get the debates to be sit-down debates just so people won't see how weak she is on her feet. Does this frighten you at all that we have such a powerful media protecting her and you're kind of working at this with cartoons?
Well, I try to watch all sides of the media. I mean, I even watched a lot of CNN during the primaries, and it's just disgusting how the media is supposed to be a watchdog, but now they're attack dogs for Hillary. And I'll give you an example. With one 15-minute segment on CNN, I heard them call Hillary historic at least a dozen times. And at the same time, they kept calling Trump divisive. So it's really a form of brainwashing. They're hoping people are so stupid that they could play this Jedi mind trick on them, and suddenly they're going to vote for Hillary despite all the obvious crimes and corruption that trail behind her. And so this is what's so important about alternative media. And increasingly, a lot of young people, they're not tuning into these major mainstream media channels. They're going to get their news from alternative media where they could actually find some truth and some actual investigative journalism, which isn't happening in the mainstream media. They're just carrying the ball for the New World Order installments. The selections. It's not really an election. It's a selection as far as the Democrats go. Look how rigged it was. I mean, look how they stole it from Bernie Sanders. I heard that he may have probably even won in California, but they rigged the election, the primary rules, so that the superdelegates have the final say, and thus they strip away the voice of the people. Now, in this cartoon that you're showing here, my older brother actually supported Bernie and actually sent him some money, and my older brother's featured on the upper right, and so I included him in there. And this has to be the biggest political backstabbing in history, the way he suddenly went with her.
And that's it for our show tonight. We do encourage you to go to prisonplanet.tv and get yourself a free trial. You can see the nightly news, the special reports, the rants, all right there on prisonplanet.tv. I'm Jakari Jackson from the Infowars Command Center, and we'll see you again.
In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. we are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.